question everyone has is, why has David not been arrested yet? And the reason David hasn't been arrested yet is because they don't have a cause of death. They don't. I mean, if you remember the Casey Anthony case, they found that body. Didn't they find it far away from the home, wrapped in a blanket and duct tape? Aside from her being her mother and being responsible for her care, they didn't have a whole lot of evidence that she did anything. You know, and if you remember, she lied all kinds of ways to the cops, but they just didn't have anything linking her to the homicide. This could be the case with David. It's very similar in that they find a body with someone that he had a connection with, but they gotta link it up. You know, they gotta make him responsible. So unless somebody comes forward as an eyewitness to something, or there's some footage of something, or there's some other way that they can link him up to her homicide. You know, like, let's say I think the quickest way to do that would be if they found some text messages where he says, we're getting drugs or whatever. And then somehow somebody comes forward and says, yeah, I saw him give her drugs and she overdosed. Or maybe he choked her out. You know, maybe there was a domestic dispute. I mean, his songs are dark as shit, aren't they? So, and just want to give a shout out to Traplore Ross. He kind of watched one of my videos and he gave us some good accolades, and he does some good work there. So give him some love. And Mr. Ross, Mr. Traplore Ross, if you want to collab, let me know. I'm all for it.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your very own personal board-certified criminal defense lawyer here at your service. Your service. Really? Oh, lucky you. So this episode is about David. This is David Part 2. And if you remember, David is a musician, singer, songwriter, whatever. And he's a young guy who likes even younger people. And he likes to leave his Tesla anywhere anybody can find it and just jump in and decide to have a eternal slumber in his trunk. That's what happened here in this case. Before we get to that, this episode is brought to you by AskALawyer.com. AskLawyer.com is it's a good service. For $49, you have a living, breathing lawyer that you can consult with on a regular basis. And what that means is if you have a dispute with your landlord, if you are looking to file a claim against somebody, if you're trying to sue somebody or somebody's trying to sue you, or if your grandma's in your basement and you need to just get rid of her, not that way, not the way, like in the back of a Tesla, kind of get rid of. But if you need to have, let's say somebody's overstaying their welcome. Like you have a girlfriend, how the hell do I get this lady out of my house? It happens, guys. It does happen. So you go to AskALawyer.com, and for $49, you get a living, breathing lawyer. Or if you're doing your own thing, they have an AI library, basically, trained on all the 50 states. And so you can do your own legal research. Cheap at twice the price. I guarantee you hire me, I'm going to charge you a heck of a lot more than that. So go to AskALawyer.com. It's a good way to talk to a living, breathing lawyer and get some direction one way or the other, legally speaking. Okay, so I'm serious today because I'm donning pink, and I've got my Elvis Presley taking care of business 29-cent stamp cufflinks on, and so that's how you know we're doing business, right? Just ask Robert. Real men wear pink. So David, as you know, he wasn't around, oddly enough, when his car was found. So David, he's a singer. Yeah, his Tesla had the body of Celeste Rivas in it. Her body has badly decomposed, which means it had been there a little while. And some people have been doing some internet sleuthing. I don't internet sleuth, I just tell you what's going on. Celeste would have just turned 15. 15 years old. Where you should be at 11 o'clock if you're 15 years old on any given night, at home in bed. You should be bitching to your parents that you can't get out of the house. And then you go to bed, and else in case you wake up alive next morning in your bed. But Celeste would have been 15 and David's 20, so that's a little bit of an age gap. It suggested that they started dating when she was 10 or 11. God, which is way too young. And just so you know, the age of consent usually is 16. At 15... mistake of age can be a defense, but anything under 15, You don't have the legal ability to consent, and you don't have the legal excuse of mistake of age. So, according to SF Investigates, Steve Fisher, whatever his name is, I obtained photos of David's 2023 Tesla Model X when it was towed and impounded. I received a copy of the 82625 complaint reporting it as abandoned along with the vehicle impound report. The caller only noted a large dent in the rear, no mention of an odor. Well, as long as it's sitting in the... guarantee it gets worse as time goes by. Until it dries out, then it's not so bad. The tow report states nothing of value was seen inside. The photos suggest the car had been left in the spot for an extended period of time. The initial complaint was called in on August 26th, which is over a month ago. Then ticketed again on September 3rd and then towed on September 5th. So you got almost, about almost 2 weeks. The report also noted that there was no wants on the vehicle, meaning that it wasn't reported stolen. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, David was on tour at the time that this supposedly happened. Good for him because he's got an alibi. So here's a picture of the car. So what? We've seen these. And there's a Reddit user. Now, somebody went back to the site and they found a Tesla card. The key, I guess, was in the gutter. And if you look here, he's touching it. He knows what he's looking for, right? What an idiot. That could have fingerprints or something on it. He should have called the cops, and, this is a homicide, probably. Although we don't know if it's a homicide yet or not. According to news report, there are no persons of interest being pursued at this stage. But believe me, David is not off the hook. The last person, she's in his car. So authorities are reportedly not seeking a person of interest or suspect at this point in the investigation. See, one of the things that you need to find out before you decide whether or not somebody is responsible for her death is to find out how she died, right? So you need to establish cause of death. And that's where you get a forensic pathologist. And what do? They do an autopsy. They look for signs of trauma. They look for signs of natural disease. They look for signs of drug overdose. They look for anything that would indicate how the person died. Because a drug overdose is one thing, trauma to the neck, head, or chest area, like a gunshot wound or whatever, that is evidence of what? Homicide. But the fact that she's in a trunk tells you that the death is suspicious at the very least. Because that's not a natural place to find somebody, unless you're maybe Italian and living in New Jersey. So, cause of death not yet determined. Los Angeles Police Department Captain and Commanding Officer Scott Williams told TMZ that they are working closely with the Los Angeles County Department of Medical Examiner to determine Rivas Hernandez's cause of death. So, in their statement basically says, at this point, it has not been established if the teen's death was caused as a result of foul play or other causes, such as an overdose. But even if it's an overdose, who gave her the drugs? And I'll tell you, this is something they're doing nowadays that they didn't do as much 10 years ago, and that is going after the dealers. I text you, I say, hey, I just got some white lady. You want to come and do some white lady? And you say, yeah, I've been jonesing for some white lady. So I sell you some dope, right? And then you go use it and thinking you're going to get high, but really I sold you fentanyl. And so you're thinking you're getting high on cocaine, and really I sold you some fentanyl and you overdose. Well, guess what they do? They look at your phone. I can't delete your messages. So they look at your phone. Oh, looks like he just talked to CLR Bruce Rivers. And it looks like CLR Bruce Rivers just sold him some dope. And he got died. And so they come back to you that way. Cops really can't do a whole lot except for preserve the evidence until they find out whether or not somebody has died at the hands of somebody else. While police previously said David is cooperating with the investigation, Williams told police that he could not confirm if the singer was cooperating with the... Why would you cooperate at this point? If you're a target, you don't cooperate unless you really can prove you had absolutely nothing to do with nothing. But I mean, he's got more problems than just this issue. I mean, if he was dating her from 10 to 11, you can consent at 16. You can lie about your age, and that can be a defense to the other person at 15. But 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, you cannot legally consent. And let's say some 12-year-old is saying that they're 18 online. Oh, yeah, I'm 18, blah, blah, blah. That's not a defense. You can't use that as a defense down the road. So friends of David told TMZ that the two were romantically involved, but that they believe that she was a 19-year-old student at US. Who fucking cares? Who cares if she said she was 19? They said she didn't think she was a minor because she attended multiple age-restricted events. Guess what happens at those age-restricted events? You know, you're with somebody famous, you know, pull your way through. Law enforcement sources previously confirmed to TMZ that Rivas Hernandez had multiple fake IDs, which could have given the access to such events. David's parents were swatted. It's been said that maybe this is a defense ploy to garner sympathy. I doubt that that's the case, but it very well could be. Let's just take a look at a report from Sidebar with Law and Crime.
So TMZ obtained police body cam footage. And this is from days after Celeste's body was found in that 2023 Tesla. And police show up to David's Hempstead, Texas family home. So we're talking September 18th, after Celeste was ID'd. And the Texas officers, they respond to this home, guns drawn, and they respond to a report of gunfire.
I'll go out wide and keep you covered. You want to tap the door? Just wait for me. Because I'm going to keep you covered.
I'm still wrapping my head around this phenomenon of swatting, you know, where you report a crime and then you force SWAT and guns drawn officers to show up to somebody's place.
We got you covered. Come right here.
Because when you call 911, your number's there. So how would they not have it? And then not only that, your location shows up when you call 911. So they know where you are.
There's too many windows. Here, knock on the door. Dude, we got a phone call from here saying that somebody was dead. What? Is there somebody else that lives on this property that has your address? What's your address? No. That's it.
That's it. That's what actually got.
We got an address. There was a gunshot and a woman screamed.
What?
I'm serious. That's why we came up here like this, because and then they talked to the caller. Whoever they were talking to said that there's a person dead.
No, sir. No, sir.
So,
okay. Do you think if they get a call that somebody's dead, you can just shut the door and they'll just walk away? Not likely.
officers have guns drawn. They're ready, thinking someone might be dead. And there is just seemingly a lot of confusion by David's parents. They don't appear to have any idea what's going on. They close the door. So let's see what happens next.
You do that, expect the door to get blasted open.
Ma'am, we got to figure out what's going on so we can leave, okay?
Very advised. We made contact. They said nothing happened here. She shut the door. Now she's calling 911.
That's clear. We haven't received a call.
I believe she's going to be in the process.
Go ahead, give him a call if you want to verify it. Okay.
All right, she's calling you now. There's more that went on.
Can you repeat, sir? Broken traffic.
Oh, that's not normal activity. If you were at the wrong address, they'd be concerned about somebody else. Like really? Like, you know what I mean?
Just shutting the door doesn't make the cops go away.
Like, they'd be trying to help.
Can you send Tinder 42, sir?
Sorry to bother you, but somebody called and said there was something. I mean, there was a person they called on themselves. You know what I mean? It was like, hey, there's somebody dead.
Someone's dead. Yeah.
That's what we have. I mean, we're going to take caution, you know what I mean? Wasn't trying to scare y'all, just... This house is way off the roadway.
So you just opened the gate and came in?
Yes, ma'am. I'll put it back. I have a gate just like it.
I think it's trying to get to my country.
Yeah, when it's something like this, when they say somebody's dead, their life matters more than, you know what I mean?
I hear.
I didn't damage your gate. I just opened it.
And that is when there is a realization. Did someone just prank them? Are they the victims now of swatting?
It ain't on their phone.
And this is not a Texas.
Yeah, that's an out-of-state number.
Someone's messing with us. Someone's
But,
messing
but
with us.
whoever, but it would be pinged here though, because wherever they call from, it pings and sends it to dispatch.
What the what?
So like when
So how do they get it to ping at that address? There must be a way to do that. I'm a way which I'm unfamiliar.
so like whenever you call 911,
here?
wherever you are, it sends like a ping
ping
to
from
that's how they know the address.
And this address came up to this number.
Yes, ma'am, that's where he was meeting. County to engine 42.
So it says somebody on my property.
It could be. We'll check the property for you.
Yes, please.
So we'll ride around.
This
If
is
you
not
can give
in
me a
my-
layout, how's the property? Like, does it go further back? Like,
No, it doesn't go any further back. It's just right here, and then it goes
On
right
the
here.
fence, there was a gate, and the fence around, which is around the fence.
Well, him and I will ride around and check, and then
So, I mean, how does that happen? I maybe you guys can tell me. So his lawyer that David's hired is Blair Burke. Now I don't know her personally, but I've spoken with her on more than one occasion. She's a friend of my former office partner, Joe Friedberg. She's represented Mel Gibson, Britney Spears, Ozzy Osbourne, Darren Sharper. So she's been around the block in terms of that. Harvey Weinstein, but she didn't try his case though. Anyway, so he's got, what does that tell you? Now he's got some high-priced legal talent. So apparently we have some new footage of the Celeste. So let's see what she looks like.
Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whose decomposed, dismembered body was found by authorities in that 2023 Tesla that was impounded in a Hollywood
You remember the songs that we heard in the last episode? It's so chilling, honestly.
tow yard out in Los Angeles. Well, first of all, her death certificate has been released. We'll talk about that. Not really a bombshell.
Death certificate doesn't mean anything. Just and it probably says to be determined when it says cause of death.
Okay, it lists things we already knew, like how she was found on September 8th, 2025 in a vehicle. The cause of death has been deferred. The manner of death is pending. When we talk about manner of death, that could be
So manner of death and cause of death are two different things. Cause of death is either suicide, homicide, blah blah blah. Manner of death is how did it occur? Was it an overdose? Was it strangulation? Was it blunt force trauma? Was it an overdose?
homicide, accidental. But this, again, is not surprising because there is still an ongoing investigation, and it's consistent with the reporting that we've seen so far. And while the death certificate confirms that an autopsy was performed, reporting suggests that the medical examiner is waiting on the results of toxicology examinations. Now, this is interesting. The death certificate indicates that Celeste apparently was not pregnant at the time of her death, nor had she been pregnant in the last year. And this comes.
How is that significant? I guess it takes a motive away.
And this comes as there has been a lot of speculation about her.
But here's the thing. So what? So she wasn't pregnant. Maybe she told somebody she was pregnant. Maybe she thought she was pregnant. And maybe, look what happened to Lacey Peterson when she was pregnant. Some guys can freak out about that. But I think there's more going on with Mr. David than what we even know.
Her relationship, her connection with David. So we're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about his movements. Before we do that, one more thing about Celeste, and this is big. So in our previous episode of Sidebar, we talked about how Celeste had reportedly run away in the past. And there were surveillance footage from March of 2024 that was released. It was taken from a local liquor shop in Lake Elsinore. She apparently lived nearby. That's about 75, 76.
When I hear about a teen running, let me tell you something. If you're a teen and you have to run because your home situation sucks, find a relative if you can. Honestly, you shouldn't be on the street. Or, here in Minneapolis, there's a place called Bridge. It's, teens can go to a shelter. I just, how alone, it's one thing, one of the things that kids do, they'll defend their parents no matter how much they beat them, because it's all they know. And so you're on the street, you're alone. You'd probably rather be beaten sometimes than, be alone on the street. So if you're on the street and you're running away, it's got to be bad, you would think. Unless you're running to somebody like David because your parents just won't let that happen. And which is even sadder because you don't know what's coming down the pike.
6 miles away from where her body was found in that Tesla. Now, that footage seemingly captured her walking and then jogging down a street. She turned the corner and she disappears from view. We thought this may be the last known footage of her before she vanished and ultimately was found in that Tesla this year. Turns out there is new footage. There is additional footage that we have to talk about. This came out after we did our recording yesterday. So TMZ obtained footage of what appears to be Celeste in September 2024. So that is different from the timeline that we had all understood, right? The one that we thought she went missing in April of 2024. In this footage that was captured on Nest camera on September 8th, 2024, and apparently provided by neighbors, it seemingly shows Celeste upset, arguing with people, reportedly over a prank that was pulled on her parents' home, potentially ding-dong ditch. TMZ reporting that racial slurs may even have been used during this altercation. And also, according to TMZ, a neighbor's boyfriend went over to Celeste's family home afterwards to say sorry, but Celeste's dad reportedly didn't seem to be too upset by the whole thing. Okay, the reason this is important, again, the reason this is key, is because it shows Celeste, or apparently shows Celeste, alive at Lake Elsinore in September of 2024 after she had disappeared, after she was missing, and apparently was on missing persons posters since April of 2024. Also, TMZ points out that September 8th, when this happened, is the day after her 14th birthday. And by the way, in a chilling twist, that is 1 year before she was found in that car.
So we supposedly have some footage of her a year earlier. I mean, a lot has happened in that year. So, but here's the thing with these runaway teens. You know, supposedly at the time that she was supposed to be missing, what happens with teens when they're supposed to be missing? They come home. They get fucking hungry. They get cold. You know, and Mom, can I come home? Yeah, I'm really sorry. Well, come on, baby. I'm so sorry. You know, it scared me. I'm so, and then guess what? It happens all over again. So I don't know that you can make a whole lot out of that.
Car one day after she would have turned 15 years old. Not sure if police have obtained this video, not sure if police are using it in their investigation, not sure if they have questioned the people in this.
Well, anyway, I don't make a whole lot out of that. All we know is she's dead. She was found in the back of a car, and the key for the car was there on the side of the road. How did the cops miss that? Apparently, sheriff deputies had called 11 times in a year, 3 times in one day. Guess what? You know, that video that we just saw of her a year earlier, who cares? I mean, teens often do this. They run away, come back, run away, come back, run away, come back. And she had a troubled home life, you know, and so there's evidence of that. Riverside County Sheriff's deputies were called to her house 11 times in just 1 year. This is reported by TMZ, I guess. Deputies repeatedly responded to her house in Lake Elsinore. I can't say Elsinore. California between February 2024 and April 2025. And according to police records obtained by TMZ, and get this, the cops say deputies visited Celeste's home 3 times in a single day. So what does that mean? It just means she had a troubled home life. She was unsatisfied or abused, one of the two. So the records state almost all the calls were listed as a minor crime investigation, with the exception of one other call for suspicious circumstances. Police took reports for 4 of the incidents, and cops planned on making follow-up on 3 of the calls. The dispositions on the rest of the calls are not available. It's worth noting that in April of 2024, at approximately 9:29 p.m., police responded to her house just hours after she was reported missing. We reported that Celeste had a troubled home life and threatened to run away several times. An ex-boyfriend from middle school told TMZ that she had joked about it before she actually left. So, you know, did she leave because of abuse? Or did she leave because she was told she couldn't go? Or did she leave because she was in trouble for something else? You know, they're investigating something. And I remember I was 15. I had taken my dad's car out without permission, and I was at the baseball field. As I was leaving, I hit a car in the parking lot, freaked out, took it home, parked it in the street, and then all of a sudden the next morning, cops show up to investigate a hit and run, and what do? I pack a fucking bag, and I hop on my bicycle and rode 80 miles to St. Cloud, Minnesota, so I knew my dad wouldn't be able to hit me from 80 miles away. God, we do some stupid things as teenagers, don't we? So, and we talked a little bit about the death certificate and the cause of death is being deferred because they don't have the toxicology yet. One thing we don't know, or that one thing we do know, is that there's no obvious sign of cause of death, right? So there's no, she doesn't have a bullet hole to the back of the head that we know of. She doesn't have any other blunt force trauma that makes the manner of death obvious. The certificate says an autopsy was performed, but we don't have the toxicology. We don't have enough information yet. So Scott Williams, the LAPD captain, told us that it was critical for their investigation to know whether Celeste died from foul play or other causes. Without the ME's findings, it couldn't be squarely called a homicide. But let's analyze this for a second. She's in the back of a trunk of a car that was abandoned. Guess why you abandon a car? Because you don't want to be anywhere near it. And why don't you want to be anywhere near it? Because you know what's in it. And now all of a sudden you hire Blair Burke, because you know that you are probably the most likely target of the police. So you're starting out with very, very suspicious circumstances. So did she OD? So the medical examiners made no mention of Celeste being dismembered in the statement sent to SF Investigates. That's some online sleuth. Originally reported through LAPD HQ. The question we all have been asking is David really dumb enough to murder a minor, leave the body in his own car, and then go on tour? Yes, he is. Because he's 19 and dumb as shit. The OD theory is weighing on me lately. It would make more sense that he panicked as she was a minor and didn't want to call the police if she did OD in his presence, right? Well, maybe that's probably a very logical assumption. But it's still, if you gave her the drugs, you're on the hook for a homicide. And then if you fuck with the body afterwards, that's another felony altogether. So let's see. So let's just posit Mr. Investigates, SF Investigates. One possibility to consider is the death of Miss Rivas Hernandez is that there are no homicide charges. If Celeste suffered an overdose and they panicked and hid the body because it would expose David as a pedo, see what I did there? Give me a break. Somebody's really proud of themselves, aren't they? So that would be the abuse of a corpse and concealment of accidental death, not homicide. Not true. If you gave her the drugs, David, it is third-degree murder here in Minnesota, and you'd be looking at least 86 months. Then that would be the abuse of a corpse. While manner of death, natural homicide, accidental suicide, undetermined, can be ruled at any time of the cause of death, will not be determined until toxicology results are back. Take a look at her text messages. Take a look at her circumstances up, because they'll reconstruct where she was, what she was doing, and you go from there. A crime absolutely happened here. She didn't put herself in the Tesla, but it doesn't mean it's homicide automatically. If she didn't die at the hands of someone else and was placed there after the fact, then it's a different crime. Agree and disagree at the same time. If somebody, like I said, if somebody gave her the drugs and she died over the drugs, it's a homicide. Was she dismembered? SF Investigates again. There's still a lot of debate about whether the body was dismembered or not. I do not believe she was. How the fuck would you know? Did you look at the body? Did you do your own analysis? No, you didn't. And I received a statement from the medical examiner's office that seemed to confirm that. There has not been any written statement claiming she was dismembered. In fact, the statement released by LAPD yesterday essentially tells us she was not dismembered. It noted that the only potential criminal culpability in this case may be concealment of her body. That was their way of saying she was not dismembered. David's lawyers his manager, Josh, got a letter from Celeste's family telling him that Celeste is an underage runaway. And I guess the day after that was sent, she went home. When you have a teen that you can't control, it's so frustrating. So, and obviously that David and his manager are silent on this issue. Of course they are, because he's not going to admit that she was there. Josh Marshall, his agent, puts out this statement on TikTok. Evidently he responded to a video. This video is false and the person is misinformed. This is all of, what do we do on here? We speculate, right? And have you heard any speculation from me? I don't speculate about shit. I tell you what I know, what I don't know. And anybody else that says what they know, that's not involved in the investigation, like cop or medical examiner, they're just talking out their hat, as they say in Ireland. This is the only time I'll speak on this matter. For now, there's been a tough time for my family, as I am the father of 3 children. I have received no emails, and I am no one's roommate. I live full-time with my wife and kids. My daughter is 14, better watch your daughter. My daughter is 14, and this news is affecting so many lives. I never received any emails. I had zero knowledge of anything. Oh, of course you didn't. And I don't live in California, as I work remotely 95% of the time, and my job doesn't require me to have much interaction with any of my clients. David, there are as many as others that work with him on a day-to-day capacity, not me. In other words, seems like methinks thou doth protest too much. This news is tragic for so many and for her family. I hope the proper authorities get to the bottom of it soon. And let me remind people, a lot of the speculation and alleged. In the meantime, I am with my family, helping them emotionally get through this. People, this is just ridiculous. So I swear to God, I've been saying this to my boyfriend. I think Josh did it. Based on what? I think he's heavily involved. How dare you say something like this with no facts? Whatever. I just don't get the rumor mill. TMZ is talking about this case on mainstream level. We are all content creators, and it's funny, Mr. Marshall would come to us instead of mainstream. LOL. I've never lived in that home. Oh, this is John Marshall. I've never lived in that home. I lived in an entirely different state with my family. I don't have access to any cameras nor anything on that property. Stop creating false narratives. In other words, I didn't do it. Don't come to me and say I did it. That's what an agent sounds like, by the way. So at this stage, if I was David's lawyer, what would I do? STFU. You shut the fuck up. If you get a subpoena or court order, you comply with that. But short of that, I wouldn't have him do anything. The big question everyone has is, why has David not been arrested yet? And the reason David hasn't been arrested yet is because they don't have a cause of death. They don't. I mean, if you remember the Casey Anthony case, they found that body. Didn't they find it far away from the home, wrapped in a blanket and duct tape? Aside from her being her mother and being responsible for her care, they didn't have a whole lot of evidence that she did anything. And if you remember, she lied all kinds of ways to the cops, but they just didn't have anything linking her to the homicide. This could be the case with David. It's very similar in that they find a body with someone that he had a connection with, but they gotta link it up. They gotta make him responsible. So unless somebody comes forward as an eyewitness to something, or there's some footage of something, or there's some other way that they can link him up to her homicide. Like let's say I think the quickest way to do that would be if they found some text messages where he says, we're getting drugs or whatever. And then somehow somebody comes forward and says, yeah, I saw him give her drugs and she overdosed. Or maybe he choked her out. Maybe there was a domestic dispute. I mean, his songs are fucking dark as shit, aren't they? We're all speculating here. But what we're not speculating about is they haven't arrested David because they don't have any evidence against him quite yet. They're building their case. So that's our little David Part 2 episode. It tells you a little bit more that we knew before, but we're still in the dark on cause of death with Miss Rivas Hernandez. I just don't understand, going after young girls. If you are a young person and you're experiencing trouble at home, it's so fucking difficult to figure out what to do, isn't it? Go to a relative, go to the cops, don't go on the street. So, I mean, my son Michael, he took off, I can't tell you how many times. All of a sudden I get a fucking ping on my phone. He's in Florida. I'm in Minnesota. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing there? Oh, I'm sorry, we know, and then it was Nebraska, and then it was Colorado. And it's like, dude, you got a nice bed, you got 3 hot meals, or as many meals as you want. I mean, we got baseball coming up. It was just very difficult, when you deal with that. So my heart goes out to any parents that are dealing with a child who doesn't want to stay at home. And this is just even more tragic because, it resulted in somebody's death. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Sign up for Patreon. Go to CLRBruceRivers.com. Nick has now graduated to, he turned a shopping cart over and he's got a tarp over it, and that's his home. But with a few more sales, I think we can get him a tenement house, where he's got to walk down the hallway to a toilet. So we'll, and he's always putting new stuff up there. So go to CLRBruceRivers.com and go to AskALawyer.com and go to Facebook. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, please, is at my